Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Mishal Saeed, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we're thrilled to have Jill Alban joining us. She's the founder and CEO of Ahead by 11. Based in Montana, Jill is a marketing strategist and certified executive coach whose paid ads marketing is transforming how brands grow through Google and Meta. And with over 15 years of experience, she's driving six-figure revenue for clients. And so today we'll explore her founding story, really how she started the company, how Ahead by 11 creates meaningful connections, and what the vision looks like for scaling her agency. So with that being said, let's dive in. Jill, welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thanks for having me and for the kind introduction. I really appreciate it. Nice to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, take us down memory lane. What inspired you to launch Ahead by 11?
It was always a dream to start my own company and work for myself. I had been in marketing communications roles for over 15 years. I started in comms for a local nonprofit here in Missoula, Montana. I grew up on the East Coast, but I moved to Missoula in '04. So I was young in my 20s and checking stuff out and really fell in love with this community. Went to graduate school and started working in nonprofit comms, environmental conservation, actually. And then in that role and wearing a nonprofit hat, you're across many functions. So I became really a marketing and comms generalist, building websites, starting social media accounts at that time, and just watching the evolution of how we talk to our target audience. From there, I worked for a private foundation in the wellness space for several years, and this was a really ambitious endeavor. It's also based here in Western Montana. Founder looking to start a learning community in Tibetan Buddhism and advanced meditation. And she was doing this twofold. She was building digital presence and digital community while also starting an in-person retreat here on the landscape of Montana. So that was really interesting because we were starting from ground zero to build her personal brand as well as launch a book, build a branded website, and launch some online programming as well. In that role, and that was really when online courses were just coming into vogue. And so I learned a lot about development, launch, and continued maintenance of a course. And then from there, I moved still within the wellness space, but I worked remotely for a group called Handel Group in the executive coaching space. And I was their marketing director and later CMO. And during that tenure, I also completed a certification in executive coaching, which really continues to infuse just my approach to work relationships and how I manage work today. But in that role as well, we launched an online product. So I became very interested and well-versed in digital identity and presence for brands with product offerings or course offerings. And simultaneously, I just have always living in Montana. I spend a lot of time outdoors. I'm an ultra runner and a cyclist. And so I have a lot of contacts and relationships in the outdoor and wellness space. So it was a very long-winded response to your question, but I was really grounded as more of a marketing generalist. It had always been a dream to go out on my own and start an agency style business. So I did that it was just right at the end of 2020. So COVID was in full effect. So it was early 2021 when I quit my full-time job and just went headfirst into Ahead by 11. And I can talk a little bit more about the evolution of Ahead by 11, which started more as like a consulting firm and then has moved into this sort of solo agency model with a couple of subcontractors.
I love that. Yeah, I was just about to say, I would love for you to dive into the nuts and bolts as far as how the offerings have evolved for Ahead by 11, starting off in the strategic consulting space. And now there's like a lot of different things, paid search campaigns, there's meta ads you're doing, there's probably some consulting. So what is the core offer today? How do you structure for the clients you work with, and who is like your ideal client? Multi-part question. I'd love for you to paint that picture for us.
Totally. So my core offer is paid advertising, specifically on Google and Meta. And while I do offer additional custom adjacent work if a client needs help with, say, like structuring a customer journey, some conversion advice on website, etc. I offer that, but I don't lead with that as my core offer. Although I will say, when I first started out in my business, I was much more, to your point, offering just general marketing consulting. And I feel like that was an okay move for me at the time, given where I was in my life and what my goals were. And at that point, the number one priority in the business was creating relationships and creating a track record and case studies of projects. So I could hang my hat on a couple of very specific examples of how I had assisted clients fulfill their goals. However, with general marketing consulting, a couple of things started to happen in my case, and I think this is pretty typical. There's a lot of scope creep. You get pulled in a lot of different directions, and it becomes in my experience, it was more difficult to attract ideal clients, which was surprising, right? Because you'd think, oh, I offer general services, I can match up with anybody.
Yeah.
But by choosing to niche and choosing to focus on what was really interesting to me at the time and what I really enjoyed doing, which was execution of paid advertising, it really helped me actually find those ideal relationships, ideal customers over the past few years that I want to work with. And I've been able to build and maintain just ongoing relationships where I'm managing these accounts for clients. And so my ideal client at this point, I love e-com and online booking style businesses. And within that realm, really outdoor wellness is my sweet spot just because I understand those sectors so intimately. So I've got companies, accounts that I manage, which are straight e-com, more outdoor gear, apparel. And then I have a few outdoor and wellness service style companies where they might be booking for services through their site, or tourism style companies that are booking for events or excursions, retreats, etc. And for me, it's like that sweet spot of the tech stack that I enjoy working with and the relationship where there's a lot of mutual respect and trust and also a spirit of collaboration and innovation where it's like there and the client likes to work with me to like really stay honed in on strategy. What are we trying to drive here and how do the ads play up to that?
Yeah, really cool. I was like, that was gonna be the next thing, especially as an agency, right? Where if you want to get repeatability and
Yeah,
stand out in your niche, you're gonna have to niche down to a certain type of industry and making sure that you're solving for that specific pain point as far as the messaging goes.
exactly. And
Outdoor,
what Yeah, and there was like so much FOMO with that too. Like
yeah,
I had to do some mental work when I made that decision of what if I'm going to lose out on opportunities and how can I say no to that really cool innovative brand over there? And you have to, in my experience, I had to get over that hump.
yeah,
And it's been really fruitful on the other side because it's really clear. I'm like, okay, I say yes to this, I say no to that.
yeah,
Yeah.
really cool. So primarily paid ads for outdoor brands in the e-commerce or book a call type of model,
Yep.
essentially, from what it
Yep.
sounds.
So lead gen or just online sales. Yeah.
Really cool. So as far as it goes with a typical client engagement, what is
Yes.
that like? How long do you typically work with some of the brands that you run campaigns for? What does all of that look like?
Yeah, I have some clients that I've now been working with I have two clients I've been working with for 5 years since I started the company. And then most of them are longer term. And let me explain the engagement and how it works. I offer a complimentary discovery call. It's typically booked on my website or through a referral. And in that discovery call, I have my set of questions to really understand what stage they're at in the business, if they've pursued paid advertising in the past and how that's gone for them, what their goals are. We take a look at their existing assets in terms of website, their email list, social media assets, et cetera. And then I like to close that call by working through, a lot of times it's spaghetti at the wall. We're just getting to know one another in that call, but we do try to work through like a forecast calculator. So taking, okay, maybe some existing metrics that they've been tracking. If it is a lead gen company, for example, okay, what is your lead conversion rate on your website? And then what's your lead to close rate? Let's like do some wild guesses around some average CPCs for your industry. And let's see, like, what might it cost you to obtain that eventual customer? What's the lifetime value of your customer? So it helps the light bulb start to go off for the client of, okay, what am I willing to pay per lead? So I love pulling out the calculator on the screen share. That's always really fun.
That's
So we
really
do
cool.
that. Yeah, that's fun. And then the sort of core offer is what I called the paid performance starter pack, and it includes an audit slash tech setup. If they're brand new, I set up their tech stack. So like conversion tracking inside of Google Ads, your Metapixel or the custom integration there. And then from there, after the audit, and oftentimes if they've been running ads, their audit will expose all sorts of a little inconsistencies, sometimes major red flags. And so you just want to look at how the campaigns are set up, how the conversion tracking is set up. If there's anything that's like a real major obstacle tech-wise to actually launching campaigns, that's important to identify that at the outset. So we move through the audit phase. And then it's a campaign setup phase where, again, depending on if it's lead gen or e-com, I follow just a certain structure across Google Ads, including search campaigns and Performance Max, and then meta campaigns. And then I include in the starter pack 1 4-week optimization period where I'm in their account frequently, sending weekly Loom screen share updates, and then including a monthly report. And then if they choose, which most of them do, fortunately, they'll move into a monthly management style relationship where, again, I'm managing the accounts, sending updates, doing creative updates on the meta side in particular once a month, and then providing them with a report. I didn't always have a step-by-step offer, and it did take a few years to get my own aha. Okay, I just need something prescribed to move people through, or else I'm just going to run myself ragged, like trying to do a custom approach for everybody.
Yeah. So you've really thought about how you've productized your offer essentially to
Yeah.
that final tier is basically getting clients to like really enroll in the monthly management retainer that
Yes.
you have in place. And then starting with that, it's the pay per lead. So the funnel, as far as that goes,
Yeah.
is it like more of a direct funnel or an indirect funnel, a book a call funnel? Like, how are you generating leads right now for your own business?
Yeah, it's a great question. I primarily word of mouth and referral. And this is actually the stage where I'm at, where I'm starting to take like baby steps toward launching some paid advertising for myself and launching some additional channels. I'm actually in the midst right now of a more formal branding process for myself. And I built my website myself, and I'll probably rebuild it myself, but I wanted a little bit more brand guidance from a real designer. I'm definitely a hack designer. So I'm pursuing that. And then after that, and after I've relaunched the website, I would like to at least set up a basic spend across Google and potentially some meta advertising, depending. At the same time, as I'm sure like this is related to some of those questions you sent beforehand, it's like you have to make sure your infrastructure is in place to handle new work. And I do have 2 subs right now that I'll bring in project dependent, off and on again, but I've been resistant just internally, mentally, to like making formal hires, not because of any real reason, just it's more of an adoption fatigue. Like the idea of hiring someone and training up and moving someone through an onboarding process just feels very daunting. But that is definitely likely a next step for my business, and or another kind of avenue I'm thinking of in the back of my head after my rebrand is done is creating a course. And then it would be much easier to create a funnel for and just do some lead gen advertising and have a lead magnet that's maybe $30 and then try to move folks through into a course. And last thing I'll say, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because we worked with so many agencies, you could probably even do a free lead magnet, like some sort of like recording of you working with a client.
Or the calculator. I've thought about the calculator.
Yeah. It's super
Yeah.
cool. Really cool. If you're looking into paid ads, something we talk a lot about is predictability when it comes to lead gen. So that's the next step outside of referrals, because sometimes that can be a hit or miss and you might not have that all the time.
Yeah.
So as far as like sales goes, it's founder-led sales right now, right? You're having all those calls with clients. What does that plan look like for expansion, delegation? Are you looking to bring on like a sales team to help with some of those things, especially setters once you launch paid ads? What does that next step look like for you as far as evolving and scaling the offer?
Yeah, I haven't thought about the sales side as much being a marketer. This is still very much up in the air tactically in terms of how I'm thinking about it and what I'm starting to put like some stakes in the sand for the coming year. The idea of a more low touch funnel with having a higher priced course that could drive just passive revenue every month is a little more interesting to me at this point, where I can rely on like creating some content assets, to your point, of myself, videos of myself, blah, 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 as the lead magnet to pull people in for that, versus using time and resources to think about a sales structure for the bigger contracts. So the answer is I haven't given like a sales team hiring process like a lot of thought, because my energy has been leaning more towards that more passive like marketing, lead gen marketing style approach. Yeah, I guess that's my answer.
Okay, that's interesting. I actually have some thoughts on that because like we've worked with a lot of clients and usually with like even a product-led growth approach when it comes to higher
Mhm.
ticket, it's still a longer sales cycle because you're still in that process of creating top of funnel awareness, still trying to nurture
Mhm.
the audience. And sometimes it is better to have more of that human touch and personalization when it comes to
Yes.
speaking to a potential client, and application grading that always helps with filtering out ICP.
Yeah.
So no, I just thought that I'd add that in because I know you're focused on growing the offer and the core side of things, but that's really cool. And where are you launching the course on? Is it going to be like school, like a
Yeah,
different?
I really like Teachable. School's fine too. I haven't selected a platform yet, but yeah. And
Cool.
I'll invest in some production value with some videos. And I am thinking, to your point of that human touch, I am thinking of having a course that's evergreen. And I'm thinking it'll be meta oriented, because there's just so many changes around meta, and it's becoming more and more, as I'm sure, like automated and AI driven. And I feel like the future for meta advertisers is going to like, I think there's going to be an opening for like guides, like folks to help guide your advertising, because the AI capabilities inside of meta are going to be really strong eventually. It's not quite there yet, but eventually I think it is going to be very strong, and it's going to be very appealing for small business to be able to just run a lot of stuff in-house. But I feel like the sweet spot there might be like positioning as like a guide to help you get started and hold your hand and support you, versus being like your agency advertiser that you have to pay a huge fee for, et cetera, et cetera. So like something like that's very marketed towards small business in particular is my concept. But back to the high touch element, I'm thinking around some different models, maybe having some evergreen teachable style material, but then having the add-on or the offer for the in-person call or coaching that can go alongside it, or maybe cohort model, like twice a year, have more intensive coaching that could lead into those higher touch engagements. But yeah, nothing's been decided. It's all still very much in kind of the figure out phase. I've been fortunate that the business has done really well. And I early on, I read a book by Paul Jarvis, A Company of One. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh my gosh.
And like, he really just talks about get really clear on your why for going into business, and try to filter out like the hustle culture must scale noise for a bit until it like feels like the right fit for you. And that has really worked for me. And I was fortunate to be in a position where I didn't have to like make a bunch of money right away to support myself. Like I had some buffer from my previous employment and things of that nature. So I could take my time and settle in and see what I was good at and see what I liked. But so you can ride that for a while as a founder, but that, at least in my case, as a founder following that adage of a company of one, but then you do have to start to reckon with your own ambition of, okay, what's my next step here for growth?
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is, you have to have an offer that's going to have clear messaging at the end of the day and really niching down. That's the first
Yeah.
step. Making sure that you have a CTA, you're actually solving for a pain point before you can
Mhm.
run full traffic to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's music to my ears right now. And I could talk about this for hours. I know we have to move on. What is the vision now for the next 6 to 12 months? What is your goal in 2025? What are you laser focused on as far as that goes?
Yeah, I think number one, just maintaining financial integrity, client integrity, and like personal integrity for myself, right? Not getting too strung out. I can always tell when my anxiety peaks a bit. Just like I notice myself engaging in certain obsessive behaviors, like constantly checking email, like unable to unplug. And like, that's just not a place where I want to function from. And it's not a place of strength for me. Like I'm out of my frontal lobes when I'm so scattered and like on edge. So I really try to maintain a lot of balance and maintain my fitness and meditation practice. Like that's paramount. And then the financial piece, I really monitor the cash flow in the business. And I tend to be rather conservative financially with the business. And so I always make sure that I've got 3 months where I can pay myself and maintain my personal savings rate. Because why else am I doing this, right? Like I'm doing this to support myself and prepare for my future. So that's really important to me. And then planning ahead for these expenses. Like in this case right now, the first financial focus is that rebrand. And then the next is going to be investing time and money in planning and developing the guide course and figuring out that strategy from there. So in short, over the next 12 months, maintain my client list and top-notch service to them, maintain my boundaries as well with them, which is hard sometimes. You got it. Niching down doesn't mean all of a sudden your boundaries are super firm. Like you still have to work those boundaries. And then maintaining that financial plan and investing appropriately in these next steps, which is the rebrand and then potentially some course development and promotion.
Yeah, no, I love that. So essentially really focusing in on digitizing you essentially all of your IP right now, figuring out what's going to be
Yeah.
the support on that front. What do you feel like right now as a founder is the challenges that you're facing? You're just being in scaling an agency. What does that look like for you? What's been your experience?
Oh gosh, one big challenge for me has been navigating the relationship with other founders of small businesses who are facing their own challenges when it comes to the products that they're selling and the marketing that they're doing. And many small businesses they have not invested in marketing enough in order to, and they're not in a position where they feel comfortable spending their 5% of revenue on marketing. And so they have to clean up behind the scenes before they can invest in marketing. And I've had a lot of hard conversations with folks who have outsized goals and tiny budgets. And it's really hard to reconcile the two of those things sometimes. So that's been a challenge, is just, I would label it as like educating the client has been a challenge. And then, I've been comfortable with the referral lead gen results to date. The business is in a good spot. But the other primary challenge as a founder is just the one with yourself and really learning to work with your own mind and understand your own triggers and obsessions. And one big lesson I've learned since starting the business is to slow down, right? So if I get a comms from a client or a pitch or somebody needs something, like it really doesn't have to happen that day. It doesn't have to happen right away, right? And it's important for me. I've learned, this might not be true for every single person, but for me, I've learned like taking time to digest allows me again to like access frontal lobes and just respond from a more resourced place than an emotional one.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest challenge, is like working with myself and learning to work with my own mind and understand myself and my tendencies. Yeah.
And there's this thing called founder syndrome. It's not that like you have it obviously, but we get in our own way of having to scale a business, right? And so communication is important, bringing in experts, finding team members, other entrepreneurs to help you so that you do things you love, which is like on the business instead, right?
Yeah.
As far as your thoughts on how digital marketing as an industry is evolving, especially with AI on the forefront.
Yeah.
Ahead by 11, staying ahead on that evolution, staying ahead of that future?
Yeah, it's a great question. We're just hanging on. No, I'm just kidding. I invest time and money into learning, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in 2 masterminds, one on the Meta side, one on the Google side, work with 2 coaches, and I just plug into those groups weekly, joining webinars, just learning the tools, understanding the tools, starting to definitely use the LLMs more, especially like for quick tech stack fixes. And the AI tools have been present inside of both Google and Meta for a long time. And like it's a lot of how these tools at least, or how these advertising platforms, I think, have managed talking about AI. Like now everybody's talking about AI. And it's sometimes I want to say none of this is like the LLMs are new, yes, as offers of products, but there's been both of these Meta and Google advertising. It's been driven by AI since I started. if not before. And now, especially on Meta, like you don't need to do as complicated of advertising setups or targeting audiences or segmentation. Like the algo is very strong. If your tracking is set up appropriately, like you really can let settings be broad and let it go and accomplish those performance goals inside the campaign. So short answer is just keep educating yourself and stay on top of trends and be able to communicate to clients, because everyone wants you to be on top of things and understand the lingo. So yeah.
Love that. Before we do wrap up, what's like the best way for the listeners and even potential clients to reach out to you?
Sure. I think my website has an easy way to click and book a discovery call, which is aheadby11.com. I'm also active on LinkedIn at Jill Alban, so that's a great place to find me. I am on Instagram. I don't post a lot of professional content on Instagram, but if you want to connect there, that's a great place to find me as well at Jill Alban.
Incredible. On that front, that wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. Jill, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story on how you launched Ahead by 11 and empowering other outdoor and wellness brands to really grow and scale through Google and Meta. I love it. I could keep going on for hours about this, but I know we only have 30 minutes. To our listeners, you guys heard it first from Jill. The best way to get in touch with her, we'll link her profile in the summary below and her website. And if you're looking to scale and grow your business, visit us over at closers.io for more resources on world-class marketing and sales systems and trained appointment setters. And don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Until next time, everyone, keep on climbing, and we'll see you all on the next segment.